Councillors, chief officers, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding to see the worshipful, the Mayor of Knowsley, Councillor Frank Walsh.
Thank you, colleagues. Please be seated. Colleagues, welcome to this meeting and welcome to everyone in the public gallery. Can I remind everyone that all mobile phones should be turned to silent for the duration of the meeting, and can I ask all members to ensure that they use the microphones. Please note that, as usual, the Council will be filming and recording this meeting. This will include people sitting in the public gallery. A copy of the film will be uploaded to the Knowsley Council YouTube site in due course following this meeting. Can I also refer everyone to the order papers that has been placed in front of them and on each seat in the public gallery. Item number 1, minutes. Are the minutes agreed? Item number 2, declarations of interest.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Each of our borough councillors who are also on town and parish councils have declared a personal interest in item number 6, community governance review, and we also have personal interest in declared in item number 10.4, and that's from our 4 reps on the LGA. These will be reported in the minutes.
Thank you. Item number 3, mayoral engagements. 3A, can you please note these engagements that I've carried out this month? Item 3B, recognition of community achievements. Can I invite Councillor Joan Lilly to say a few words?
Mr. Mayor. Colleagues, I'd like to say a few words about the Council-supported internship programme and highlight the achievement of the interns who are here with us this evening. Last September, the Council, in partnership with Knowsley Community College, launched the supported internship programme for 11 residents who were aged 19 plus and had learning difficulties or disabilities. The aim of the programme is to provide valuable work experience and skills to these individuals and to help them secure employment at the end of the 12-month programme. The interns worked across a range of council services supported by staff who volunteered to act as their mentors, and I'm delighted to report that 7 of them have now progressed to paid employment with the council and 2 of them with the NHS at the Centre for Employment Living. The remaining 2 interns are being supported into other training or employment opportunities. Colleagues, this programme has had a positive impact not only on the interns but also on their families. In fact, it's been so successful that a second group has started this September with a further 9 interns. In conclusion, I would like to offer my congratulations on behalf of the Council to the young people here with us this evening, and would like members to join me in watching a short film about the programme and the interns' achievement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lilly.
Hello, Emma.
Hi, Emma.
My name is Ben.
Hello, the name's Terry.
Hello, my name is Gwen.
Hi, my name is Jane.
Hi, my name's Kelly.
I am Anthony.
Hi, I'm Kelsey.
Hello, I'm Mark.
Hi, I'm Lauren.
Hi, my name's Tony.
My name's Paul Clements. I supervise the stores and the depot in Stretton Way, and we have one of the interns, Anthony Kildare, and I think he's doing really well at the moment. He's thriving in the job.
My name's Steve Donnelly. I manage security and school crossing patrol service. We have an intern called Jake. He's been absolutely excellent for our team. He's really pulled us all together. And in terms of training, he's doing some really complex tasks in our control room.
My name is Andy Cunningham, and I'm an internship and I'm working down in transport. The jobs I'm doing down here are driver's hours, job cards, key tracker and key signing. The skills I've gained so far down here are communication skills, listening skills, communication skills and teamwork skills.
Becky's been with you now for more or less a full term, really. How would you say she settled in?
Really, really well.
Yeah.
At first, it was a confidence, but
Yeah.
the longer she's been here, you can see her just growing and growing.
Yeah.
She's more confident.
Kelsey's been with you now. This is like the end of the second.
Yes.
Well, we're going
We're going, yeah.
rotation.
Yeah.
What changes have you seen in the workplace? What would you say she's progressed in?
I think obviously she's doing the post
Yeah.
on every floor, so that's the ground floor to the 7th floor
Yeah.
in the municipal building, which is a massive achievement.
Yeah.
And she does that independently, so
Yeah.
she's doing that. It frees up the staff to do other things.
Yeah.
The other thing that she's doing now is she gets the post, if there's special deliveries or recorded deliveries, she gets a member of staff to sign for them.
We've had her on secateurs. She's done the hydrangeas, taking the deadheads off from the winter time. So she's pretty adept with all of that now. She's I've no worries really. Yeah, and she enjoys it, I think.
I'm Amanda.
I'm Paul, we're Tony's parents, and he's on the internship programme at Kirby Market. He doesn't let boundaries get in his way. He'll have a go at doing anything now, whereas before he'd think about it more than he does. Now he'll have a go, and if it doesn't work, he'll come and say, can you help me? And someone's always there to help him if we're not there. So.
I like doing all the hard work.
I use my initiative more now. I like the variety of jobs in my business.
Okay, my name is Claire Owen. I'm the employability tutor at Supported Internship Programme. I teach various levels of functional skills in English and maths on a Friday at 9:30 till 3 o'clock. On the Friday, it's a good chance for the interns to meet up after a week's work and discuss different activities and what they've enjoyed during their working week at their placement.
Hi, my name's Donny Harrison. I've come from Nottingham Community College. I've been invited here to teach on the maths programme. The students are doing English and maths, which they're achieving superbly.
Hi, my name's Sue Templefield and I'm the job coach on the Supported Internship Programme. My job includes building up relationships with different council departments and finding placements for our interns, which is suited to their vocational requirements, their likes and their abilities. Yeah, the main role of the job coach is to be a link between the placements, the parents and the interns, so that we've got a holistic approach to make sure the interns can be as successful as possible.
I feel safe.
I have learned to slow down and get the job right.
I have become a more positive person.
I am willing to try new things.
I thoroughly enjoy being part of a team.
Colleagues, I'd like to take this opportunity in thanking Councillor Lilly and the rest of her team for the production of this short film. And once again, can we just give them a short round of applause? Thank you. I would now like to present each of the interns with a certificate in recognition of their achievement. So if Andy would call each one up in turn, and then when they do, they'll be placed to one side, and then we'll get a group photograph and set individual photographs. Thank you.
Right, so it's Kelsey Baker. Chloe Bonner. Tony Doyle. Next up's Loddon Usher. Anthony Cunningham. Becky Lynch. Terry Smith. Next up, Anthony Kildare. And we got Jake Johnson. Thanks very much. Lovely.
See you later.
Okay, well done, see you later.
Okay, colleagues, item 3C, leader's announcement. Can I invite the leader to say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wasn't that great? I know Chloe and Kelsey because I see them every day, and I've watched them grow over the last few months, and they tell me off quite often, so must be good. Anyway, thanks again, Mr. Mayor. Colleagues, some of you will know that a couple of our senior officers will be leaving us in the coming months, and this is their last full council meeting, so I wanted to recognise their service for Knowsley. But before I do that, I wanted to also recognise the commitments of our entire workforce here in Knowsley. In my recent blog, I made the following reference about officers who work at this council. We need good people to make sure we're delivering good services for local residents at all the best possible value for money. We ask our senior officers to take on a large number of complex and difficult challenges every day, taking responsibility for vital services which directly impact on the welfare of local people, the future prosperity of the whole area, and the health, security and quality of life of individuals living here in Knowsley. Any reasonable observer would agree these are huge responsibilities, and they are given only to those individuals with the correct skills and experience. And of course, anybody who carries out such responsibility is entitled to expect a salary that reflects that. Knowsley has a record of nursing and developing officers who take their skills and experience elsewhere when the time is right for them. That said, I want to recognise Lisa Harris, who is our Assistant Executive Director for Regeneration and Housing, and will be leaving us in November to take up a position at Cheshire West and Chester Council. Lisa has worked for Knowsley for 25 years. 20 of those years I've known personally. Lisa lived in Airwood, so she's from the same neck of the world as I am, and was educated in Knowsley. She got her O and A levels. Lisa worked in Airwood as a housing officer, originally, then a manager for the council, and then later on for KHT. I remember working with Lisa on Helsingborg Heights when we had there was 2 cases for that. One was, I think, was an excellent moment in time for Airwood residents. Is when we welcomed, I think it was 60 or 80 families, wasn't it? Asylum seekers at that time. And the community of Airwood welcomed them. But Lisa was key to all of that. She made sure all the wheels were smooth and everything ran well with that. I also remember, I have fond memories of going into the office on a Monday morning, because I used to do my surgeries on Sunday nights in the Labour Club in Airwood. And I'd come out with a big pocket full of beer mats and said, Lisa, I need all this sort. And invariably she did do that for me. Anyway, during their time with the council and with Casey, she has played a significant role in a large number of regeneration housing projects across the borough. The nature of her job means that she was involved in tackling many local issues and concerns. And I'm sure that you all will have had direct dealings with Lisa over the years. More recently, Lisa has played a key part in developing our pipeline of schemes which helped us to claim such a large share of the City Region Single Investment Fund monies. We are the envy of the City Region at this moment in time, due to Lisa and other members of the team. We've got as much as we possibly can at this stage, and we're still asking for more. I understand that Cheshire West are keen to repeat her success in attracting investments in that sort of role. Secondly, I want to recognise Paul Boyce, who's our Executive Director for the Children. I'm going to make him cry. who will also be leaving us in November to take up a post with our neighbours in the Wirral. Paul has been with us a shorter length of time than Lisa, but his impact has, and we've got to say that, been significant. When Paul first joined Knowsley, we were a few months away from an Ofsted inspection, and we all know about the findings of that inspection. I was invited to the cup of coffee with Paul one afternoon because he was a bit concerned about what was going on, and I gave him some assurances. And he still owed me for the coffee, by the way. Is that this council, under Ronnie Down, the leader at that time, would commit fully to supporting financially what we needed to do to get us out of that mess, and I followed that along as well. So we played a key role in turning around our children's social care, and I blame Malcolm Newsom, the chair of the Improvement Board, and I quote, Knowsley has exemplified how a council can turn around its children's services through corporate determination and focus. You will be aware that I am increasingly citing your council as an example of good practice, and the sector has much to learn from your approach. I have no doubt that it was this reference and his people skills in leading teams which made his appointments so attractive to Will. We were in a similar position to ourselves, but I can't see Phil taking you for a cup of coffee. Before we pass our thanks, and I just want to make that point again, this council's success and its record of success in recent years has been noticed elsewhere. Our reputation is positive and people want to learn from our experiences. That is why both Paul and Lisa have received better offers, and they have obviously chosen to accept those offers. We are already taking steps to recruit a replacement for Paul, and we have terminated Dale Milburn's secondment to the combined authority, much to Steve Rosamond's chagrin, but there you go. So that we will have covered when Lisa leaves, and we're going to create a team round there. I'm sure that Lisa and Paul will both agree with me when I say that their teams played a significant part in their success, and those teams are staying with us, of course. Colleagues, I'm sure that Lisa and Paul leave with our best wishes, and I hope you will join me in thanking them for all their hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moorhead. Item number 4, public question time. 2 public questions have been received. Can I invite Mr. Taylor to ask his question?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is to the Leader of the Council. Given that Knowsley Council has stated that it cannot afford to carry out its basic duty of maintaining our parks and green spaces, does the Leader of the Council accept that such unnecessary expenditure, like the £83,000 spent on ridiculously large signs marking the borough's territory and the associated costs with hiring private security to police council meetings, are simply not economically viable, and will the council be more cautious with how they spend taxpayers' money in the future?
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Councillor Moorhead, do you wish to acknowledge the question?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Can I refer that question to my colleague, Councillor Gary C? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moorhead. Councillor C, you wish to respond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Kai, for your question, and thank you, Leader, for allowing me to answer this question. First of all, colleagues and members of the gallery, I'd like to make it clear that this council is absolutely crystal clear when it comes to making decisions about the importance of where we spend money in this borough. I also want to make it clear about the financial challenges that we faced because of the Tory Lib Dem coalition government, and then followed by a Tory government deciding to target us as one of the hardest hit local authorities in this country. So we face difficult decisions, colleagues. We all know this. We live in this borough, we work in this borough, and we make decisions for this borough. And we know how difficult it can be to make decisions on behalf, and the right decisions, for our residents. I just want to make a couple of references to the points which have been raised in Kai's question. First of all, the one about the signs. We'll have all seen the signs, and we'll have all seen the negative press coverage as well. But I want to make it absolutely clear in this meeting tonight why those signs are important to our borough, as have other signs in the past. Those signs are significant when it comes to representing what we stand for as representatives of this borough, as residents of this borough and businesses that belong in this borough. We should remember that those signs are the gateway to our borough, a place that we should all be proud of, a place that our businesses, residents should be proud of too. When it comes to businesses asking us and requesting things of us as a council, we also need to listen to them, also like residents. We should not forget that our businesses in our communities generate a lot of income, they generate a lot of jobs, and for us that's important that we listen to those businesses. Those businesses asked us to make sure that Knowsley was put firmly on the map when it comes to driving in and out of our borough, and that's what we've done. We've listened to them. I also want to make sure that to any of those future potential investors that want to come and be placed within our borough and offer people jobs in our borough, that they actually know what Knowsley means, and those signs are one of the first things that they will see when they enter or leave our borough. It's also important to mention the significance of businesses in our community. They generate not just jobs, they generate a lot of investment too. So for any of those future potential investors that come to our borough, they need to know where they are. And again, those signs will be the first things that they see when they come to our borough. Colleagues, we all know what happened at the back end of last year and the beginning of this year, when a number of us, not just ourselves, but staff members, which Andy referred to before, and actually residents of our borough, faced significant challenges either leaving or entering a public meeting, which for me should be a place where we come to make those important decisions I referred to before, and we should be able to do so safely. Up to date, the security which Kai referred to, which isn't a private policing firm, it's actually a security firm that comes to protect us, comes to protect residents and comes to protect our officers. Up to date, it's only cost £2,000, and I think £2,000, Mr Mayor, is little to ask when it comes to personal safety. Safety of us, safety to our residents and safety to our staff is of paramount importance when we come to public meetings, colleagues. I'd hope that in my answer and response to Kai's question, he will acknowledge the difficulties that we all face in our communities when it comes to making decisions. And whilst we can, on occasions, face those difficult decisions, we should also remember that we do it with the right intentions. So the signs are there to bring investment, to bring jobs, and to bring future growth to our borough, and to make sure that our residents can feel proud of the place they live, and that businesses can feel proud to be part of Knowsley. When it comes to security, I dismiss and feel absolutely awful that those questions are raised about people's safety and security when it comes to our meetings. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor C, will you just remain at the lectern? Mr Taylor, as the initiator of the question, do you wish to ask a supplementary question?
Yes, please, Mr Mayor. Will Councillor C be able to give me an overview or a breakdown of the costs for the security, because I'm struggling to believe that £2,000 is an accurate figure, to be quite honest, so if you could provide me with that, I'd be quite grateful.
Thank you, Councillor C.
Thank you, Mr. I'm glad Kai references the £2,000 because I think he answered the first part of his question when he mentioned the £2,000. When it comes to public expenditure, this authority has a record of being open, transparent and honest when it spends money. You're more than welcome to that information, Kai, and the information will actually be available on the council's website if you went and had a look a little bit further. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor C. Can I invite Mr Sandringham to ask his question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My question is for Councillor Moorhead, and I would just like to ask, as an elected representative of Page Moss Ward, will he vigorously defend Jubilee Park from any threat of commercial development? It is a much-loved piece of land and is used regularly by a variety of groups, not least Friends of Jubilee Park. Run a regular kids club that is enjoyed by many parents and children alike. Dog walkers, joggers and several youth football teams also enjoy the park. This is also a part of our identity as a community. Will he join us in defending its continued existence? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Sandringham. Colleagues, a member's question has also been submitted by Councillor Carl Cashman relating to the same subject, and so, therefore, on that basis, both questions will be considered together. Can I invite Councillor Carl Cashman to ask his question?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. With the recent survey into the future of our parks being conducted, does the leader of the council understand the concern of local residents regarding the potential privatisation of parts of the parks? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cashman. Councillor Moorhead, would you like to acknowledge the question, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you also Mr Sandringham and also Councillor Carol Cashman for this question, and for also giving me an opportunity to share my views on this subject. I want to start by explaining that questions are addressed to me at these meetings as the leader of the council, so I am responding as the leader of this council. I don't think it would be fair to any of you as individual board members if I use this opportunity to promote my own ward ahead of any other. I am committed to and passionate about the quality of our parks and our green spaces. And I am sure that I am no different from most of you now. The whole of the Labour group on this council recognises the significant and positive impact which these places have on our communities. That is why this Labour council has continued to invest in our parks and gardens, and why we currently have 18 national green flag standard parks, which are the envy of many other local authorities. I wish we could maintain that investment, and I agree with the general point made by Mr Sandringham. We have to do our best to protect these assets across the way. Of course, we wouldn't have to look at different operating models if it wasn't for the Tories and the Lib Dems, who have conspired to salvage this council's budget by taking £100 million away from our communities since 2010. Colleagues, let's be clear, the current Tory government has made it quite clear that they will only provide this council with funding for the services which the law says we must provide. They have no intention of providing funding for discretionary services, and that includes maintaining parks and green spaces. The Lib Dems supported that approach when they were in government, and they are desperately hoping that we will forget their part in decimating local services in this borough. Maintaining our parks and green spaces costs around about £1.3 million every year. So in view of the savage and unfair cuts that we've got to come up with another way of protecting our community. Do nothing is not an option. On the 25th of January this year, the Lib Dems supported and voted for a notice of motion to protect the future of Knowsley's parks. An extract of the motion actually reads that an all-party and stakeholder task and finish working group be set up to explore options for parks, so that their continued maintenance, development, investment delivers against a host of priority outcomes for this council, its partners and our communities, and that such a new delivery model will ensure that our parks can be maintained and protected in perpetuity for generations to come. We set up an independent park board with an independent chairperson to undertake research and recommend a way forward. At this point, I want to be clear that the Lib Dems were given a place on the Parks Board so that they could help with the research and influence the outcome. There have been 5 meetings of the board this year, and the Lib Dems have not attended any of these meetings. Nor indeed have any of our Lib Dem colleagues attended any of the 8 site visits.
Point of order, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Smith, your point of order.
It is a point
yes,
of order.
Councillor Smith, your point of order is with reference to which?
It's with reference to the non-attendance of the Lib Dem person at the meetings. That was in fact me. I was ill, I was in intensive care, I was in hospital in June and July. Prior to that I was ill and unable to attend the meetings. And I do take exception to the Leader of the Council using that as a, political swipe at the Liberal Democrats. It is totally unreasonable and out of order, Mr. Mayor.
Why do you send somebody else then?
Colleagues, Councillor Smith, the question was not directed at you personally. It was directed at the Lib Dem as a party. Councillor Moorhead, will you continue with your speech?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There have been 5 meetings of the board this year, and the Lib Dems have not attended any of those meetings. Nor indeed have any of our Lib Dem colleagues attended any of the 8 site visits that have been arranged by the board. Now, Councillor Smith had a wait a moment. Councillor Cashman himself has been invited to numerous sessions and offered numerous briefings, but hasn't bothered to attend any of them. I think it's clear that the Labour group on this council understands the public concern and support for our parks and green spaces. Given that they've made the choice not to get involved, I can only assume that the Lib Dems don't think the issue is worth their time. Perhaps if you attend up at board meetings, you would understand that privatisation isn't being proposed. In fact, no specific option has been proposed at this point. The Parks Board is currently consulting residents, and I would encourage all residents to participate in that process. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Moorhead, will you just remain at the lectern? Mr Sandringham, as the initiator of the initial question, would you like to ask a supplementary question? Very well, Mr Sandringham.
Hi, Councillor Moorhead. I came here today to represent some people from my ward, and I was speaking to you as a ward councillor. So what I guess that you're saying is that you cannot fulfil both roles. You can't protect Paige Moss's award, you've got to go along with the rest of your party wants. I think that's really disappointing, Councillor Moorhead, and I just find that really, really unacceptable. All I've heard in your response is some kind of victim status.
Mr Sandringham, is this a question or a statement?
I'm just asking Councillor Moorhead, if you can't differentiate between your ward councillor status and your status as leader of the party, leader of the council, then why are you even a ward councillor for Paige Moss if you can't help us to defend our interests? All we have is Jubilee Park, that's it. And you can't even promise that you'll.
Okay, Mr Sandringham,
I've not quite finished. I'd just like to redress.
Mr Sandringham, you have made a full and comprehensive question to the councillor. You must allow him to respond. Councillor Moorhead.
I've got no response because the report's not in yet. No one knows what's been said. No one's looked at it. No one's decided nothing at this stage. So to ask me something that I can't respond to is an impossible question to answer.
Thank you, Councillor Moorhead. Thank you, Councillor Sandringham. Sorry, Mr Sandringham. Thank you. Councillor Moorhead. Councillor Cashman, would you like to ask a supplementary question?
Yes, please, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to start by saying part of that answer was a lie, Councillor Moorhead, because when...
Councillor Cashman, you must remember your terminology when addressing the council.
Terminology, if it's a lie, it's a lie.
Councillor Cashman, come on. You are the leader of a party and you must understand the terminology and the use of grammar in this council chamber. Please rephrase.
So basically, Mr Mayor, what Councillor Moorhead says about there being no proposition on the table about £40 million being grabbed from private investors is untrue, because I was approached by someone in the street in Prescott.
Councillor Cashman, can I just stop you there a minute? Right, you must ask a question, you're making a statement. Just ask the question of Councillor Moorhead.
Right, okay, Mr Mayor. So when I was approached by a survey conductor in Prescott, they told me of an interesting contrast. She said that after conducting a survey in Highton, there was not much opposition, whilst in Prescott, nearly every resident that was asked stated the importance of parks and green spaces. Will the leader acknowledge that different communities have different interests, and will he allow us to get a breakdown of the survey results by townships instead of over the whole borough? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cashman. Councillor Moorhead, would you like to respond?
First of all, it's a borough-wide issue, and secondly, the consultation is still taking place. I can't, again, give you a definitive answer at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moorhead. Colleagues, moving on to item number 5, Knowsley Safeguarding Children's Board Annual Report 2016-17. Councillor Joan Lilly.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Happy to move the recommendations in this report.
Thank you, Councillor Lilly. Councillor Tony Newman.
I pledge to second them minutes, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Newman. Colleagues, are there any questions or comments from members of the Council? If there are no amendments, can I put the motion to the vote? All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Would anybody like to abstain? The motion is carried. Item number 6, Community Governance Review. Councillor Moorhead.
Can I move that motion, Mr Mayor?
Thank you, Councillor Moorhead. Councillor C.
Happy to second that motion, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor C. Once again, colleagues, are there any questions or comments from members of the Council? If there are no amendments, can I put the motion? Sorry, Councillor Smith.
Yeah, last night, Mr Mayor, we're here discussing the importance of your role, the Mayor, and twinning, etc. And obviously, as you keep telling us, there is a shortage of money. This community governance review is, according to the report, is going to cost £10,000 and also is subject to legal challenge. Wouldn't it be much better if the £10,000 was perhaps redirected to a better cause than reviewing something that's already gone through the Boundary Commission? Perhaps, you know, sending some Knowsley children to Dallas, which has happened on a yearly basis, which we discussed last night, and certainly where there is a shortage of funding to provide that service so it can continue. At least then the children of the borough will be benefiting, and as we saw tonight earlier in your awards, the community awards, how fruitful that is with the internships. So, you know, rather than wasting money, here is something that we could actually direct money on, and I will be voting against spending £10,000 on this review, which I think is a bit of a waste.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Your questions and comments will be noted. Colleagues, are there any further questions or comments? If there are no amendments, can I put the motion to the vote? All those in favour? All those against? Would anybody like to abstain? The motion is carried. Item number 7, Unacceptable Behaviour Escalation Policy. Councillor Moorhead.
Can I move them recommendations, Mr Mayor, and reserve my comments till last?
Thank you, Councillor Moorhead. Councillor Murphy.
Happy to second on this.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Would anybody else like to raise any issues at this point? Councillor Moorhead's indicated he's going to leave his comments to last. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In my humble opinion, having to implement such draconian measures signals rather despair and sort of the beginning of the end of this council. I think it will show a loss of public confidence in the council. I think Appendix 3 is just over the top and denies the public the right to free speech and to protest. In politics, you know, we can expect to be offended on a daily basis. We are whenever we come here by various people, and you get used to it. And it would be a great shame if this council denies people not only access to meetings, but also denies them the opportunity to protest in a lawful way. And also, I've noticed in the report that we tend to get mixed up a little bit with the way that maybe staff are spoken to on the counter down at the one-stop shop. That's one thing, but you know, in terms of us as politicians and the people's right to come to a council meeting and not just express their view, but you know, on occasions to be angry and to show their emotions, this council seems to want to do everything to deny that. And I think it'd be a great shame, and I think, you know, really it does put Knowsley's future at risk. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Cashman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a shame, really, that we've reached this point, and it's a symptom of a lot of councillors not listening to views of their residents. The biggest moment, of course, of public dissent in this council was when the decision was taken to remove large swathes of Greenbelt land. Some councillors in this chamber tonight promised residents that they would not vote to release that land, and then went ahead and did so anyway. Is it any wonder at all that residents react in protest or show dissent when those who are sent to represent them do not listen? In no way is our decision to oppose this policy a reflection on the Assistant Executive Director, who has helped many residents and councillors alike. I deplore any acts that have distressed this member of staff and any other member of staff in this council. While it is acceptable to be outraged by some by the decisions of this Labour Council, it is unacceptable to intimidate or distress any individual. Because we live in a free and democratic society, we must allow our residents to show dissatisfaction when they choose to do so. And as such, anyone who calls themselves a Liberal cannot support this policy. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cashman. Councillor Kearns.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, nowhere in this policy does it deter members of the public to approach elected members or council workforce to seek an answer for services or any inquiry. It doesn't say it at all. It says there are those that people who think they're above the law, who can bully, abuse, threaten and intimidate members of the council workforce for their own ends. And that's not the general public, that's a small majority of people who want to bully their way in. Mr. Mayor, in reference to an email that we all got from Mr. Taylor, who is an elected member of the Green Party up in Prescott. Mr. Mayor, if this is the policy of the Green Party for whom the Speaker or the spokesperson for, that their political party advocate that they can bully, intimidate, threaten and abuse anyone to achieve their own political goals, then surely democracy does go out the window. And I, for one, will not tolerate any abuse to our employees or elected members in performance of their duties. And we've just heard from the leader of the Lib Dems in support of that, is that it's all right to abuse, bully, to get their own way. Although he... Excuse me, I'm speaking. Yeah.
Don't bully me.
I'm not bullying you. I have the floor from the mayor of this borough.
Carry on.
And what you're doing is exactly the same thing. The interruptions and the catcalls and everything else. Now, that's political. We don't mind that. Gets on with it. But I'm saying, Mr. Mayor, is that this policy protects those members of the public who wish to come into this chamber and speak And tonight we've had it. We've had members of the public come into this chamber and speak. They haven't got the answer that they really were looking for, but they had the opportunity to put that forward to this council. And we've always done that. And when we're talking about security, it was because of all this intimidation and abuse that created the need to have security for protection of its officers. Officers come to work every day, don't deserve to be abused or intimidated by anyone. And if anyone can't make or verbalise an argument and a dissatisfaction, even though they are frustrated, they shouldn't turn to intimidation and threats. And this protects our officers and workforce. And I'm asking members to support this.
Thank you, Councillor Kearns. Councillor Finneran.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Cashman and Councillor Smith, can I just go back a time when I was the Mayor? And I'll give you the reason why we had security. I happened to be walking out after the meeting, but I had to abandon the meeting because of the behaviour. That's fine. They, as you said, they've got the right to come here, as any person has to come. So it was adjourned, and come January, we had the next meeting where they absolutely took over the chamber. Their behaviour was outrageous. Absolutely, I've never seen children behave in the way that they did. But then again, as you said, that's fine. That's fine, that's how you behave. There's no problem with that. But as I happened to be leaving the thing, I had to have a security man from Stockholm from being pushed down the stairs to be called a fat so-and-so, which I explained, you know, I was grateful that they explained to me that, you know, I'd forgotten I was, but that's fine. But when the person actually went to push me down the stairs, do you accept that as a normal behaviour, that you take that? Then on another evening I came to a planning meeting, and Councillor Harvey, we were meeting. We watched members of the staff being called names that I'm a lady, I think I'm a lady, and I wouldn't dream of doing it. So I'm sorry, I don't agree with what you're saying, and I hope you rethink of what I told you is the absolute truth. And I hope you will never agree with people like that to say that we shouldn't have security. Because as you said, we are councillors, and I don't mind getting called names. I've had it all my life, and I think it's quite good actually, at least he knows who I am. But I will not tolerate actually being trying to be pushed downstairs, and to have other members of staff who are cleaners actually ashamed to come to work, not getting told to be ashamed that they work here, and we know where you live. Do you accept that? Please tell me that you accept that as behaviour, because I certainly don't, and I would never, I'm proud to be a borough councillor, and I stand here and I tell every one of you, I'm proud to be a borough councillor. But by no means am I proud to represent them people that can go that low to sting a person in a decent living to be able to put up with that abuse. Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I'm sorry I went on so long, but I felt I had to do
it. One moment, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Finneran, for that very comprehensive reply. Thank you. Councillor Smith, Councillor McGlashan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, on that particular night, or those two nights, I usually sit in this place here. I'm usually in this place, Mr Mayor, with my back to the gallery. On that particular night, I was physically assaulted. I did ask a member of the public not to cross the barrier into the chamber. I was told in no uncertain terms where to go. A former elected member of another party was virtually in my face, threatening me. I was just waiting for him to try and smack me. I know who would have got the better of it, even though I'm 80 years old. On the way out of that meeting that night, I was accosted by a young lady who definitely said, I know where you live and we'll do something about it. Now, since those two nights, Mr Mayor, we have had to be moved one pace forward because of the physical abuse we took that night. And, you know, I don't like it because I don't wish to be separated from the public I represent. I wish to be amongst them all the time, not told what to do. Really and truly, Mr. Mayor, this isn't any of our doing.
Thank you, Councillor McGlashan. Councillor Smith, you wish to ask a second question, but your question must only cover what you've already initially talked about. It can't be anything new. So if you keep it to what you were trying to emphasise before.
I just wanted to respond to Councillor Finneran. She asked me a question.
Well,
which I've asked.
no. There's no response, only an explanation to what you said.
Well, just on the point, I think what we're looking at here is an escalation of the policy, and for me and my colleagues, it just goes too far. I accept what Councillor Finneran says in terms of personal safety is of paramount importance, and you know, obviously to be respectful. However, this Councillor McGlashan has just said that it was none of his doing. I think, unfortunately, for the council and its members, and what they did with regard to the green belt, it was all their doing.
Councillor O'Keefe.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, just in response to Councillor Smith there, for me, nothing any elected member could do would warrant being physically threatened, and neither should that be a response to anything, Councillor Smith, and the fact that you're fine with that as a response to us maybe not voting in the way the public wanted us to is absolutely abhorrent. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Keefe. Councillor Brian O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have to smile at what Councillor Smith has just said. You know, people seem to forget there's 30-odd thousand people under the age of 18 currently living in Knowsley. In the not too distant future, hopefully, most of them would like to live in Knowsley. And the only way we can do that is to have houses or whatever it is that they need built within Knowsley. They also would like to work in Knowsley, and hopefully we can have factories and we can have other units built that will employ people in Knowsley. So those 30,000 people don't have to all go outside the borough. It's been known in the past for 20 odd years that a lot of people, as they get older, have to migrate to other areas. You look at Warrington, how it's grown, Widnes, how it's grown, Maghull, how it's grown. But a lot of those people are from Knowsley, and now we want to keep those people in Knowsley with good jobs and good accommodation.
Thank you, Councillor O'Hare. Councillor Moorhead, would you like to respond?
Thanks again, Mr. Mayor. I think we can clearly see evidence tonight of a new coalition being formed in this chamber. I asked for this agenda to be put on the agenda tonight. One simple reason. This is not about stopping debates, or indeed about stopping appropriate lobbying, or even protest. It's about this council being as transparent with all the residents in Knowsley who want to debate and argue their case, to ensure that they can do so in an environment that is safe and stops them being shouted down by people who are not interested in democratic rights, only in their own voices. Indeed, on one of the nights mentioned, Mr. Sandringham himself could not ask his question because of the abuse he received in this chamber. I accept that many people will not agree with everything that the council does, nor will they agree with some of the decisions that we take, particularly as we move forward with increasingly difficult budget decisions. I and all the councillors and officers are happy to engage in genuine debates and to listen to any alternative views to explain our decisions. I would hope, however, that there will be a certain standard of behaviour adopted by anyone engaging with the council even when they are in clear dispute with us. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. There are lots of examples of behaviour that have left members of the public, officers and councillors feeling threatened and intimidated. I've got the time to list them all, but here's a few examples. Foul, abusive and or threatening language being used. Just heard some examples of that anyway. Past and present mayor being verbally abused when doing their duties. Members were at public events with their grandchildren being verbally abused. Numerous challenging telephone calls to both senior and junior officers, which have led to them feeling extremely upset and intimidated. Some of these have been to junior office members and have actually left them members of staff actually crying. Members of staff who are dead coming to work in case they have to deal with any particularly aggressive or challenging individual. I'm not going to name the individuals, I think we all know who they are. Members of the public are being denied access to the council chamber by individuals who are hell-bent on stopping democracy at work. Officers are being filmed when carrying out their work. I'm not referring to filming in this chamber. That's permitted by law. Mr. Pickles said that. But for example, filming someone giving advice in the one-stop shop, then it gets uploaded onto YouTube. Is that acceptable behaviour? I ask you, is this acceptable behaviour? Members being abused on social media when sharing information goes with the job. Fine, we'll accept that. Officers and elected members have been approached and challenged when they were away from the council buildings. Indeed, some followed me over to my local pub. Goes with the tendency, accept that. But I don't think it's fair for an officer to be followed through the car when he's going home from work, do you? Council officers receiving mail at their home. This is a classic, this one. At their home addresses about council business. To be intimidated like that at your own home is absolutely unacceptable. I've also had the union representatives coming to see me and raise concerns about their members of staff because they're in fear of their own safety coming to work. We should be ashamed of ourselves if our employees can't come to work and be safe. So is any of that kind of behaviour acceptable? The answer is no, quite simply a no. Whilst the previous adoption of these policies referred to in the report has helped and other measures are being put in place, recent events suggest that the council needs to take further steps to assist in deterring such behaviour. And I will say this again, it's a very, very small minority of people that's actually doing that. And we know who they are. Anyone else that wants to come to this chamber and wants to demonstrate, they can do. I've been in there when there's been absolute murder going on, but not like that. Not what happened to Edna when she was going down the stairs. You can see I'm getting angry with this because I'm upset with our opposition members. If they vote against this, that's fine. We know exactly what we're going to deal with in the future because they don't care about the council staff or members of the public. It's all about bully boy tactics, and that's what we want to do.
No. Yes.
In recommending this report to all, I hope you support it. And again, I'll emphasise the fact this will only be used in exceptional cases, but if there's a need to support the welfare of safety for all concerned. If there's a need to support the safety for all concerned. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moorhead. Colleagues, if there are no further amendments, can I put this motion to the vote? All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Would anybody like to abstain? The motion is carried. Item number 8, joint authorities and combined authority. No questions have been received on this item. Item number 9, members' questions time. There are no further members' questions to be considered. Item 10, notices of motion. Number 1, central government funding for schools. Councillor Morgan, I believe you have a motion you wish the council to consider.
Yes, Mr Mayor, thank you. Can I move that notice of motion?
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Councillor Flatley, I believe you wish to second the motion.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Happy to second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Flatley. Councillor Morgan, do you wish to speak on the motion?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Councillor Flatley, do you wish to speak on the motion?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Flatley. Are there any other members who wish to speak on the motion? Colleagues, seeing there's nobody that wants to speak on the motion, we'll go straight to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Would anybody like to abstain? The motion is carried. Number 2, the Minister for Older People in Government. Councillor Chris O'Hare, I believe you have a motion you wish the council to consider.
Pleasure to move this motion, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Hare. Councillor Spall, I believe you wish to second the motion.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Happy to second this proposal.
Thank you, Councillor Spall. Councillor O'Hare, do you wish to speak on the motion?
Yes, please, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This council believes that the appointment of a Minister for Older People in government is a real opportunity to commit to a coherent, cross-governmental approach to age and ageing. The gap between the remit of the health and pensions ministers needs to be addressed to deal with the unprecedented demographic change that underpins the transformation of the economy, training, work and social care. The Minister for Disabled People works successfully across government to ensure disabled people are not disadvantaged in any way, and is a model that we feel could be replicated to ensure that older people are treated in a similar way. The Equalities Minister also has cross-government responsibility for strategy and legislation. The huge increase in our ageing population needs a dedicated minister for older people, that is the over 50s, to ensure that they are skilled, enabled and allowed to contribute fully to society. Drawing together older people's policies and legislation to empower older individuals is essential to achieve this objective. It's about much more than health and pensions issues. It's about a life without boundaries, with education, skills and employment, community and social activities, living well within an overarching ethos of an inclusive society. It is imperative that all stages of life are embraced in a holistic way. We need directives and arrangements for people and their carers living with dementia to ensure our current and future generations are able to live well with this incurable brain disease. We need government action for the growing numbers of lonely and isolated people in our society, which will increase rapidly with longer life expectancy, along with cognitive and physical impairment. The government cannot respond from silos. A cross-governmental approach is crucial to interpret the nature and profound implications of the demographic transformation to simulate changes across many aspects of our life. How we work, the way we live and how we use technology, how we interact and care for each other and adapt and build a new environment in which we can live and work. Members of Parliament must take this opportunity through the creation of a Minister for Older People to ensure we do not repeat the mistakes of previous governments of all parties who ignored and set aside through inertia potentially effective and inclusive whole system strategies. And in closing, it's worth noting that all of these documents were produced in partnership and active work with older people who made a huge contribution. A Minister for Older People can ensure that their knowledge, experience and skills will not be set aside repeatedly, ironically under the banner, nothing about us without us. This Council therefore resolves to call upon government to establish a Minister for Older People to work across all government departments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor O'Hare. Councillor Spall, do you wish to speak on the motion?
Yes, just briefly, just to say that I hope that we have full support for this important proposal. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Spall. Are there any other members who wish to speak on the motion? Very well, on that basis we will move to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Would anybody like to abstain? The motion is carried. Item number 3, Tired campaign. Councillor Connor, I believe you have a motion you wish the council to consider.
Can I move that motion, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Councillor Connor. Councillor Newman, I believe you wish to second the motion.
Can I formally second the motion, please, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Councillor Newman. Councillor Connor, do you wish to speak on the motion?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor. Colleagues, I just want to say a few words, and it is only a few words about this motion, but this motion affects all of us as drivers or passengers on our roads. The motion is in support of the Tired campaign, a campaign which calls for the banning of the use of tyres older than 10 years of age on passenger service vehicles. Defective tyres are a major risk on vehicles on the UK roads. So a ban would bring instant, immediate, better levels of road safety. So all I say to you, it would save lives. And I know when you've read it, you're all going to back me, I know, but I think it's important that we look at this and say that this motion is an important motion. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Connor. Councillor Newman, do you wish to speak on the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Newman. Are there any other members who wish to speak on the motion? Very well, on that basis we will move to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Would anybody like to abstain? The motion is carried. Item number 4, fair pay for local government workers. Councillor Murphy, I believe you have a motion you wish the council to consider.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, can I move this motion? Right.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Moorhead, I believe you wish to second the motion.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. May I second that motion?
Thank you, Councillor Moorhead. Councillor Murphy, do you wish to speak on the motion?
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor, it's quite explicit in the on the motion, so I move in the recommendation on the old page. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Moorhead, do you wish to speak on the motion?
For me, quickly, Mr. Mayor, I would expect every member in this room to vote for this at the council, even though people don't believe in council operative safety.
Thank you, Councillor Moorhead. Are there any other members who wish to speak on the motion? Councillor Smith.
Just to reassure Councillor Moorhead that we do fully support the workforce, and I do find the first line a bit strange, which says this council has always supported the notion that local government workers are invaluable. It's not notion is an odd word to use, but still. What I would like to remind this council of, it's nice to see that they are fully backing the low paid workers, because back in 2003 at this council they were quite happy, the people earning £50,000 and above, to award themselves a 15% pay rise, whilst the rest of the workforce, they were quite happy to see their pay rise reduced from 3% to 2%. And I can remember being in a meeting in the finance with the finance people, and they thought that was quite funny at the time. The unions weren't too happy about it, and therefore moving on at least 10, 14 years. We need to make sure that it is the low paid workers and that the gap between, you know, the high paid in this authority and the low paid is brought closer together. I think that is a trend that's going on throughout the country, which the government's claim is the case, but I see no harm in this council lobbying the government to make sure that it happens here too.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Murphy, would you like to respond before I put the motion to the vote?
Just a quick comment, Mr Mayor. I'm sorry the grant was not to your acceptance, Councillor, but I'm not taking any comment from a member of the party. We go back, you mentioned past 14 years, and your party to the decimation of the finance of all local authorities. I don't take your comment at all. I'm moving the motion, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Colleagues, we are now going to move to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Would anybody like to abstain? The motion is carried. And finally, colleagues, item 11, any other items. Seeing as there are no further items of an urgent nature, can I thank you for your attendance here this evening. I now declare the meeting closed and I wish you all a safe journey home. Thank you.
Please be upstanding for the Mayor.